like the NBN. Just having another look at a P&L in SASU, same sort of look. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time. What SASU does have that's a little bit better than Xero, they actually have a payroll. Xero have just released their payroll, but it's not actually a calculation of payroll, it's just a recording of what you've paid someone manually. So it doesn't work out your group's tax and that. SASU is a bit smarter. More so that SASU is more Australian-based than Xero. Xero is more internationalised. We've now moved to MYOB Live accounts. It is interesting that the average bear wouldn't actually see this, and as I said earlier, they're scrambling. The system is not quite as smart. It looks pretty, but just doesn't have the strength behind it because it hasn't had that extra development. But they're chucking lots and lots of money at it at the moment to try and catch up. You can sort of get the same sort of feel. It's got the graphs and the lookups of things. All right. So I've mostly covered some of these things here as we've gone through, right? But you've really got bank feeds is very powerful. The ability to have your accountant come in. The benefit of being on the web is it's low cost. If you're just starting business and it's $29 a month, $39 a month, and it's only you, how cheap's that? Why wouldn't you start there? You don't have to have an IT structure, you just have to have your laptop or a PC and you can get on the web. You can get on and look at things through these things if you really wanted to. Might be a bit small, but you can. It's available over the net, so we can do it anywhere in the world. We can keep up to date with our accounts. If I look at the cons, right, there are things that people don't talk about. The cost per user per month. And we're starting to see this with people who've been doing software as a service. We're seeing people now start to charge. If you've got 20 employees, all being charged $100 a month to be in the system. Oh, my maths aren't that good, is it? That's a couple of $1,000s a month. That's $24,000 a year for your accounting system. You can actually go and buy one for that. And your year-on-year cost doesn't change. And we're seeing that happen with a lot of clients now where they're doing this, starting off small, but the costs are growing. And they're going, hang on, why should I be paying that much? But if and this is maybe the biggest con in my belief with a lot of the IT stuff at the moment, everyone wants to do it on the cloud because they get a monthly fee. You don't have to sell it again. It's in the direct debit. It's there forever. And no one stops it. A couple of the other things, integration back to other software. It's a lot harder to dump things back down to your spreadsheets when you're dumping it off the web, linking things up. Data security. Who owns your accounting data? Where is it? We've seen a classic example of one software company who went into receivership and the receiver then charged $5,000 for people to get their data back. Pay it or lose it. Didn't matter about laws. Do you want the data back? You've got to do it. I've seen another one with SAP where SAP had a product which was a web-based product. I got into it and I was enjoying what I did. They shut it. I had 2 weeks to get it off. Maybe that won't happen, but because I couldn't do it, I just had to chuck the data away. I think the one that challenges me more than anything is who in this room has had to restore something because you've made a mistake? I know I have. It's a lot harder if you're trying to restore that over the web. And even though people will say to you, yes, it's in a secure location, it's with a hosted people, try and get the IT department in India or wherever that IT department is to restore your one file. How challenging is it? It's a lot more challenging than we all think. Just even in your own IT departments, getting them to do it from an overnight tape, let alone when they've got lots of other people's. We've had a couple of clients put their whole systems on the cloud, and they've actually been shocked because they've now come into the corporate rules. And when I talk about corporate rules, if they want to change a user, they've got to put a request in. they've got to deal with the IT department rather than dealing with the bookkeeper or the accountant or whoever's in the office that's in charge of it. There's good and bad on either side. We've talked about batching. Upgrading to bigger systems is quite challenging. Is when you actually change and you go up to something bigger, do you keep your old accounting system? So now if I jumped off MYOB or QuickBooks, I could actually move them onto something, and I leave MYOB and QuickBooks there, and I can go back and look at that for history for as many years as I want to leave it there, because I can read the data. Same thing works with the Tasho side business. But if I do it with Xero or Sasu, do I have to continue paying my monthly fees? We know with NetSuite you have to actually, to have it hosted, you still have to pay. So even though you've actually jumped off the system to look at your history, they'll give it to you in a CSV file, but you can't actually read that. So to actually go and look at your accounting system, you've got to go and say, let's get this, where do we go? Or do I just keep paying the money? Most people are going to end up paying the money. The support for running it on the cloud is no different than running it in your office, because the support isn't about technology, it's about how do I do my bookkeeping, how do I do my accounting, that type of stuff. All right, a couple of things there, just hosted versus web. If you talk about hosted is what a lot of people talk about from a technology point of view, is where is it? And most people, when they're hosting it, they're just running a virtual server with Terminal Server or Citrix. So all they've really done is grab your server from the office, take that, and put it somewhere else. I had a classic environment with a client who is running their accounting system based on their head office's accounts. So it was running on a Citrix server in West Perth, and they were running it over the web, and the client said, I've had the salesman come in and convince me to put my accounting system on the cloud. And I went to him, it's the same. And he went, no, this cloud's going to be faster than what I have hosted over. And I said, but the connection out on your internet connection from your office in Canning Vale is exactly the same whether you're running it from Canning Vale to West Perth or Canning Vale to Sydney. The server may be different, but the pipe out of your office is exactly the same. That may change once the NBN comes in, but I think at the moment there's a lot of hype about cloud, and there's a lot of things that are going to change, and I think the technology will change a lot, but we've just got to actually develop into it. We've talked about the web. It's really that whole batch processing. You've just got to be aware of things need to be batched up, and when you actually send it up, it's going there. And some of the processing can be a bit exciting. All right. The next level of the market, and I need to speak faster because I tend to find I chat for too long about things. If we just talk about MYOB in the middle market, which is, I've said under $5,000, because if we look at things like Enterprise and QuickBooks, they're about $4,500 to buy them. Premier is about between $1,500 and $1,800. The average person starts here still, and I would say that which one would you buy? It's a bit like watching the races. Do I follow Ford or Holden? It's more about what my dad follows. That was the way it's decided. And most of the time you speak to the accountant and they have a preference. They're the ones who will decide whether you should be on QuickBooks or MYOB because they want your data coming in a certain format. It's only once you start moving past these that you get more decisions to make. Just support for the SME at the beginning. Really it is more do-it-yourself, that centralised call centre. Most of the stuff's still done by people's bookkeepers. And most of the reason that you're in MYOB, Premier and Enterprise, you've started at the bottom end and you've just kept extending it and gone from a 1 user to 2 users to 10 users and wonders why it's going slow. The maintenance and setups, I normally allow 1 to 2 times the cost of the software. Okay, I'm going to spend a bit more time in this one because this is the one I expect most people are really challenged by, is I've had MYOB and QuickBooks and I need to go a bit further. I've chucked a few versions up here and we'll just briefly run through them in no particular order. If I just start with Attaché because it's at the top. Attaché and SciBiz, as we talked about earlier, both have been around since the mid-90s. We're both dominant players.